In early December, Nepal's new prime minister chose China as his first overseas visit destination. Immediately afterwards, China and Nepal jointly issued a joint statement covering 12 cooperation topics, with a focus on promising to provide assistance in 6 major infrastructure projects. These projects involve ports, roads, railways, aviation, power grids, and communications, with the goal of promoting connectivity between Nepal and China and helping Nepal achieve its transformation from a landlocked country to a land-linked country. It is worth noting that when Nepal decided to list China as its first destination, India's reaction was not very friendly. After all, according to convention, the first visit of the Nepalese prime minister after taking office should be to India, which is in line with the traditional relationship between the two countries and also reflects India's profound influence in Nepal's affairs. However, the Nepalese prime minister's priority visit to China this time was seen as breaking tradition. Subsequently, some analysts pointed out that India's dissatisfaction mainly stemmed from Nepal's move to reduce its dependence on India. In other words, the reason why India was nervous was because of its concern about the decline of its influence in Nepal. So, how did China help Nepal achieve its transformation into a landlinked country? And what made India so anxious? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. Nepal is located in the southern foothills of the Himalayas, with a land area of about 147,000 square kilometers and a population of about 30 million. As a country hanging on the southern slope of the Himalayas, Nepal has quite rich mineral resources. Preliminary exploration data show that Nepal has iron ore reserves of about 23 million tons, copper ore reserves of about 16 million tons, lead ore reserves of about 3 million tons, and zinc ore reserves of about 2.7 million tons. However, most of these resources remain undeveloped, making Nepal a veritable virgin land of mineral resources. In addition to minerals, Nepal's hydropower resources are also very rich, with theoretical reserves of up to 83 million kilowatts, accounting for 2.3% of the global total. From many perspectives, Nepal's size would probably be considered a big country if it were located in Europe. Coupled with its borders with China and India, two major global consumer markets, Nepal's strategic location is unique. Ironically, however, Nepal is one of the countries with the lowest per capita GDP in the world and one of the least developed countries in Asia. The reason for this is that one of the important factors is closely related to the special relationship between Nepal and India. On the surface, the relationship between India and Nepal seems to be close, almost like brothers. In fact, Nepal's geographical location has put it in a dilemma for a long time. China is to the north, and it is surrounded by India on 3 sides. This surrounded geopolitical pattern often puts Nepal in a passive position in diplomacy and economy, and its development space is greatly restricted. Nepal's identity as a landlocked country is like a heavy yoke, which makes it unable to get rid of its overdependence on its neighbors. According to statistics from the Nepalese media Kathmandu Post, India has imposed an economic blockade on Nepal 3 times in the past decade, which has directly affected Nepal's material supply and economic operation. This unequal relationship even made some commentators bluntly say that Nepal is regarded as a vassal of India to some extent. Despite long-term influence and constraints from India, Nepal has never given up the dream of getting rid of this control. And China in the north is an important partner in achieving this goal. For many years, Nepal has always had high expectations for China and has cooperated in many fields. For example, in order to alleviate the problem of fuel shortage, Nepal sought assistance from China in 2015. At that time, China quickly provided 1.4 million liters of fuel assistance worth 10 million renminbi to help Nepal overcome the fuel crisis. In addition, in the past decade, Chinese companies have also actively participated in Nepal's infrastructure construction, especially large-scale investment and project cooperation in the field of hydropower. Once upon a time, Nepal was a country facing severe power shortages, but now the situation has changed dramatically. According to Nepal's data, its domestic power demand peaked at 2036 megawatts, and now its power generation capacity has reached 2,650 megawatts and is still growing. What is more noteworthy is that Nepal recently took the risk of angering India and took the initiative to seek China's help in an effort to realize the dream of a land-linked country. So, what happened behind this? In early December this year, Nepali Prime Minister Ali chose China as the destination for his first international visit since taking office in July 2024. During the three-day official visit to China, Nepal and China jointly issued a joint statement on the second day and signed a series of important cooperation documents, including the China-Nepal Economic and Technical Cooperation Agreement. Of particular interest is that the joint statement clearly stated that China will deepen connectivity cooperation with Nepal in 6 key areas: ports, roads, railways, aviation, power grids, and communications. This move shows that China fully supports Nepal in achieving a historic transformation from a landlocked country to a land-linked country. To promote this goal, China will help Nepal complete 6 important infrastructure projects. These projects include the 4th phase of the Anuj Highway Maintenance Project, the construction of the Zirwa-Simacot Highway, the 2nd phase of the Kathmandu Inner Ring Road reconstruction, and the repair and improvement of the Shala Highway. In addition, the feasibility study of the Nadoka-Chahar Tunnel Project and the Jirong-Kathmandu Cross-Border Railway Project will be accelerated. If these projects can be completed as scheduled, Nepal will bid farewell to the plight of a landlocked country and bring new development opportunities to the country. It is particularly noteworthy that the key to Nepal's transformation from a landlocked country to a land-linked country depends on a grand Sky Road project, that is, the China-Nepal Cross-Border Railway from Jirong to Kathmandu. The railway will start from Shigatse in Tibet, China, and run through the Himalayas, with a total length of about 572 kilometers. The Chinese section, 498 kilometers long, with a design speed of 120 kilometers per hour, adopts single-track standard gauge electrification. The Nepalese section, although only 74 kilometers long, is extremely challenging. This section of the line needs to descend from an altitude of about 2,800 meters to an altitude of about 1,400 meters, spanning an altitude difference of more than 1,000 meters. The construction period is expected to be about 9 years, with a total investment of up to $4.1 billion. If this railway running through the Himalayas is successfully completed, it will not only greatly enhance Nepal's international connectivity, but will also become a great project of epoch-making significance in human history. Surprisingly, after Nepal and China announced cooperation to promote the transformation of the land-linked country, India expressed great concern. Subsequently, India believed that according to convention, the Prime Minister of Nepal should visit India first after taking office, which is in line with the traditional relationship between Nepal and India and also reflects India's dominant position in South Asia. This time, Nepali Prime Minister Ali chose to visit China first, which will undoubtedly cause dissatisfaction in India and may bring some diplomatic friction between the two countries. However, India's anger has also attracted the attention of some authoritative figures, who said that India is angry because it will lose control over Nepal. What exactly happened? For a long time, India has always regarded itself as the hegemon of South Asia and regarded Nepal as its backyard. Due to its close geographical connection, Nepal has also regarded India as the most ideal partner in the past few decades. As a result, India has become Nepal's largest trading partner and source of investment, and many basic commodities and consumer goods in Nepal are almost dependent on imports from India. Most of Nepal's trade with other countries also needs to be re-exported through India. However, this deep dependence also allows India to grasp Nepal's weakness. For example, in 2015, India decided to impose an economic embargo on Nepal because Nepal's new constitution failed to meet the demands of the Indian Madhesis for state building. This move caused Nepal to suffer from severe shortages of fuel, food, and medicine, causing great distress to the Nepalese people. But this incident also deeply warned Nepal of the risks of overdependence on India. More notably, India's embargo has instead provided China with an opportunity to become Nepal's new partner. During the embargo, Nepal sought emergency assistance from China, and China quickly provided support to help Nepal solve the shortage of fuel and other materials. Subsequently, China and Nepal signed a series of agreements, including a fuel supply agreement, a transit trade and transportation agreement, and a port infrastructure interconnection agreement, further deepening the cooperative relationship between the two countries. Even Nepal handed over part of the currency printing contract to China, marking that Nepal has begun to break through India's economic shackles to some extent. Subsequently, China and Nepal signed a memorandum of understanding on railway cooperation, clarifying the plan to build a railway from Shigatse to Kathmandu. Once this railway across the Himalayas is completed, Nepal will be able to open up a channel for direct exports to the world through China's efficient railway network. In addition, China also allows Nepal to use 4 seaports including Tianjin, Lianyungang, Shenzhen, and Zhanjiang, as well as 3 land ports including Shigatse, Lhasa, and Lanzhou. More importantly, China invited Nepal to join the group of friends of the Global Development Initiative and provided Nepal with 100% zero tariff treatment, which undoubtedly provided Nepal with a broader space for economic development. Therefore, this railway project is not only an important achievement of China-Nepal cooperation, but also a key step for Nepal to get rid of India's influence and achieve greater autonomy. It is not surprising that India is dissatisfied with this. It is worth noting that the plan for the China-Nepal Railway was not proposed recently. It was put on the agenda a long time ago. However, due to the differences between the two major political factions in Nepal, the project has not been smoothly promoted. The Communist Party of Nepal, Unified Marxist-Leninist, to which Nepali Prime Minister Ali belongs, has always been friendly to China, while the Nepali Congress Party tends to maintain good relations with India. The two parties have major differences in foreign policy, especially on the Belt and Road Initiative. The Nepali Congress Party has publicly stated that it would rather accept grants than loans. At the same time, the Nepali Congress Party also plans to sign MCC with the United States. The core content of the plan is that Nepal accepts $500 million in aid from the United States, but in exchange, the United States will deploy military facilities in Nepal. In cooperation with China, Nepal often puts forward some challenging requirements. For example, China has contributed money and effort to help Nepal build the Pokhara International Airport, which is Nepal's first modern airport with an annual throughput of 1 million passengers. It is known as a national honor project. According to the agreement, after the airport is built, Nepal should use profits to repay China's loans. However, during the term of the previous prime minister, Nepal requested to default on the debt, believing that the construction of the airport did not meet the standards, refused to repay the loan, and even asked to convert the loan into a grant. This behavior undoubtedly brought great uncertainty to the China-Nepal cooperation and became one of the major challenges for the promotion of the China-Nepal Railway project. So, do you think this railway can be successfully built? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.